This is the Transforming Anxiety podcast with mindfulness teacher Kelly Hanlon McCormick. And today is episode number 258, Predictability versus Control. My intention for this conversation is that all of us control freaks take a breath and re-examine what we think control looks like versus the reality of it. Welcome in. It's the Transforming Anxiety podcast, episode number 258, Predictability versus Control. I'm so glad you're here. Hey there. Welcome in today. Okay, I have to tell you, we're going to crowdsource more often. I have loved hearing from you. I asked you to bring it last week with the birthday episode, and it has been so cool to hear from you, to get your words, to hear your experiences, your wins, your struggles, all of it. I love it. This is my favorite thing about the internet by far, the way we can be connected in these really sweet and kind ways. So if you missed it, there's a link in last week's show notes, which you can find in the podcast feed, wherever you're listening, or you can visit my website, kellyhanlonmccormick.com/podcast/257, because that was episode number 257. And in there, you can find the link to the Google form where you can send me your input. I want to hear from you. This isn't the last of that. Keep it coming. I promise I'm going to use it all. It's so helpful to me. I'm going to create something for us. We're going to make birthdays amazing, but I'm also going to ask you for feedback on other topics, other things that we are having fun with, that we are struggling with, all the things. All right. We're going to talk about control today. Because let's just be honest, a lot of us who tend towards anxiety are control freaks. We like to feel like we're in control, right? We like to feel like we have things under control. We like the idea that we have some sway, some authority over how life is going for us. This isn't unreasonable, right? It makes sense. We want to say in what's going on. Sure, absolutely. What I think is helpful, though, is to really recognize the places we have control, the places we don't have control, and the places we think we have control, but we don't. That's what we're going to focus on today. But let's actually start with the places where we don't have any control, because this is pretty cut and dry. It bears a quick visit, because we can even get a little mucked up here. I know you've noticed. So ready for some examples of where you just don't have any control whatsoever? All right. We can't control the weather. I know, but that was an easy place to start, right? We can't control the business of the universe. And by this I mean pandemics, war, politics, global crises on a massive scale. Now listen, of course we can contribute, we can show up, we can make sure awareness and change is all moving in the right direction, but these are not things we have a grand light switch and can flip and make things different, right? We can't control this. We cannot control what other people say. We cannot control what other people do. We cannot control how other people think and feel. Now, the good news is this is about it, honestly. We cannot control Mother Nature. We cannot control the universe or God or our benevolent angels or what have you. And we cannot control other people. Those things are out of our control wholly and fully. Yes. Let's talk about where you have complete and total control. Okay? You. You can control yourself. And similar to the places where we don't have control, that's about it. Pretty cut and dry. You have pretty full authority over yourself. Now, No, you cannot consciously control things like your digestion or your circulatory system. You cannot control your ability to fall asleep or to become an Olympic level runner. Kinda. You cannot control your height or your eye color. Okay. But you have great control over the inner machinations of your mind and your heart, how you think and feel. Most of that is under your absolute power and say. Not completely and entirely. I hear you. There are thoughts and feelings that seem to arise completely out of nowhere. Yep. But by and large, you get a pretty big say in how you're thinking and how you're feeling. You have pretty total control over what you say, what you do, how you show up and move about the world. That is largely yours for the taking. Yeah? Okay, let's also talk about places where we think we have control, but we have no control. This is something. Then we're going to talk about these a little bit more specifically. How about for this one, though, some examples, some places where we believe we are calling the shots and we're just not. For instance, when you set up your calendar for the week, and let's say things just go completely according to plan, everyone gets where they need to go, everyone has what they need, right? It's easy to believe that we exerted our control over the day, the week, the people, and it worked. Success. Another example, when you book a flight and it takes off and it lands on time, it's easy to think you orchestrated a trip and that you have things under control. How about when you tell your kid to hustle and they put their shoes on and they get out the door in 2 minutes? That can feel like you are well in control. So you get the idea. I know you're not actually in control of time or people or flights, but since we don't really pay attention to it, and then sometimes, most of the time, honestly, if we're being really open and honest with ourselves, things go according to plan. It can wind up feeling as if we're putting things in place to some extent, meaning it can seem as if we have things under control. And here's what I want to highlight today. Things going according to plan does not mean we have control of things. Predictability doesn't equal control. Schedules working out and people cooperating and 70-degree days when we have plans outside does not mean that we are pulling the puppet strings on our lives in a way that makes us successful or good or that we're winning. And again, I think it's important to highlight this because when we have a dozen balls in the air and things work out, we fall into the trap of believing we somehow did it, right? That we manage things well, that we are good. And I want to spotlight this association and disavow us of making this meaningful in some way. Just because things go according to plan does not necessarily mean that we had something to do with it. Now, before this sounds like a really bad news episode, why is this important? Stick with me. Because if we start believing that when things go according to plan and people cooperate and Mother Nature chips in to boot, then we start believing we have to keep it up. That it all falls on us. That it's our job and our responsibility to keep things going and keep the schedule and keep on keeping on. And that is why I wanted to talk about this. I don't want us fooling ourselves into believing that we have more power or more control over the external world than we do. And I want us to take control where we do have it, which is on the inside, with our thoughts and feelings and actions. And if we think we have control where we don't have control, and then we try to perpetuate that facade, I think we're setting ourselves up for big time pain sooner or later. See what I mean? Simply because things are predictable doesn't mean we have control over them. When you make reservations for dinner this weekend and you take the whole family out and things go smoothly, it doesn't mean that you have control over it. It means things went smoothly. It's honestly kind of random. But if we start to believe we have some control over that, and that then future family dinners are also our responsibility, and we have absolute control over making sure those go smoothly too, well, do you see where this gets tricky? Where we can be setting ourselves up to fail at some point? Then we start really needing people to cooperate. Restaurants, kids, in-laws, traffic. We start needing the weather to work out and people to be in a good mood because they had a decent day at work or at school. We get into all of the external factors that went into something going smoothly, the way we hoped and predicted it would go based on our plans and ideas, and then we grip onto that. And we fool ourselves into thinking we had something to do with it and that we are now responsible for doing it over and over and over again. Now, all of that said, we do have way more control than we think. We have way more control than we exert, even. And that, like we talked about earlier, is an inside job. How you think, how you feel, how you act, these things are pretty well under your control. Now, I will admit, they happen quickly. Most of us have thoughts that we're barely aware of. We feel the feeling the thought creates, and then we're off and running, saying and doing things before we've even taken a breath. Yes. This is where mindfulness can come in. Can I be aware of what I'm thinking and feeling? This is a big ask right here. Half the time, if I'm honest, if you were to ask me, what are you thinking? How are you feeling? The most honest first answer from me would be, I don't know. Because I'm usually too busy doing. I'm in motion. I'm in action. I'm trying to get things done. I know a lot of you are like this, right? Just going. Human doings instead of human beings. But where do we try to control things? In the outside world, right? The other people, the places, the plans, the time, the kids, the expectations. We try to control all of those things that are outside of us instead of turning that attention and effort inside. I have found when we're willing to shine a light on what's happening inside, we have more than enough work to do. We don't need to mess with the outside world nearly as much as we think we do because we have plenty of homework to do. And bonus, when we do our own homework, when we are doing the only work on the inside, right? We're doing the only work that works. Because I know you've noticed it doesn't work trying to control the outside world. The people, the places, the things, they just do whatever the hell they want every single time. So if we do our homework, our own work, then we get to actually create change. We get to affect things. We change our own minds, we change our own hearts, and we get to make things happen for ourselves. And here's the kicker. We can do this no matter what's going on out there. The other people, the places, the things, they can just carry on. We can let them be who they want to be, which honestly is the kindest thing we can do for the people in our lives. We want to be who we want to be, right? We want the people in our lives to allow us that freedom. Let's give them that freedom as well, right? Now, I know I can hear you, and I have this thought too sometimes, like, well, if I'm doing my work and I'm looking at how I'm thinking and feeling and making sure that I'm doing and saying the things the way I want to be doing and saying the things, not just in a purely reactionary way, right? They aren't doing their work, though. Yeah, I hear you. They aren't gonna. It's okay. They don't need to. That's their life. It's their path, their business. So back to our homework, right? The inside job. We can only take care of ourselves. Mindfulness, awareness, self-compassion. That's literally all we can do. I saw a post from a therapist the other day about how a lot of people who are in therapy to deal with the people in their life who aren't in therapy. Yeah. And it's what we tell and teach our kids too, right? We can't control whether other people are going to play nice or whether they're going to share or whether they're going to say kind things and show up for us. We can only do our work. It's what we learn at the office. I can't control the whole team. I can't control the deadlines, the bosses, the clients. I can only show up and do this gig with all the integrity I've got. That's it. That's it. So over and over again, we recognize where we don't have control, where we do have control, and those trickster places where we think we have control. We may even have some facade of evidence that makes our case for control look pretty darn good, but we just don't. If it's out there, if it's the other people, the places, or things, we just don't have any control. Let go, let go, let go where we don't. And do your homework where you do have control, right? On the inside, take it. Look there. Get aware, pay attention, get curious, stay friendly. There's no judgment here. We're all a little wild and nutty on the inside. That's just how it goes. So drop the judgment. Just stay fascinated by who you are, by how you tick, what you want, what you need, who you want to be. So the point here today is not that we don't plan. It's not that we don't create things. It's not that we don't hope and dream and schedule things. It's not that we don't make requests of the people around us or hope that things go smoothly and plan for success. We do all of that. And we recognize our place in it. And we don't fall into the trap of believing that we have full control over it so that we don't weaponize that facade of control with ourselves and beat ourselves up if and when things don't go smoothly, when it all kind of falls apart. All right, we'll leave it there for today. Predictability doesn't mean we have control over it. When things go smoothly or well, or when things are a hot mess and just completely fall apart, that doesn't mean we were pulling the puppet strings for all of it. Like, own your stuff, right? Take control where you have it, which is on the inside. Show up how you want to. Do your homework so that your mind and your heart are cleaned up and you can speak and you can act how you want to. And from there, we let go. No control. Good things, bad things, it's all going to happen. Amazing beauty, horrific tragedy. Yep. Take control where you have it. Let go where you don't. I know, this is way easier said than done. But we practice, yeah? We point ourselves in that direction. Me too. You're not alone in this practice. I'll do it with you. All right. I will see you at the same time, same place next week for more transforming anxiety. And until then, please take care. Thank you so much for being here, for listening, for doing this work alongside me. Thank you for sharing this with your friends and your family, anyone who, could use the support and the guidance, who could use these teachings and practices. Thank you for sharing your stories with me, telling me about your experiences and asking your questions. I'm here with you. Let's do this together. Transforming anxiety.